Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so, I'm so excited to be here. Um, Please say hello if you are on Facebook, if you're on YouTube. Say hello and let us know where you're from. Let's see, where are you guys? Loving the divine energy. I love it. Where are you guys from? Where's everyone checking in from? Vienna, Venezuela, Sweden, Sacramento, Hastings, New Jersey, Slovenia and Florida, Great Britain. What's up? Denver, Jacksonville. I love Florida. SoCal, New Zealand, Belgium, the Netherlands. I'm really happy to be here with you guys, and because I never know how to keep myself in a time frame, I have 60 minutes, so I am going to start. I am going to get going. We have a really exciting hour together. Um, what we're going to do is I'm going to share a little bit about the book. I'm going to talk a little bit about how it came through, how I wrote it. I'm going to share with you guys some graphs. This book was not downloaded in a quote unquote normal way. It was a very unique process and a very unique journey. And I think it's important to kind of talk a little bit about that journey because it's what makes this book so powerful. So I'm going to go into that. I'm going to bring in two different amazing women that have read the book and let them spend about 5 to 7 minutes talking about the book and their experience with it. I'm going to read a little bit of the book, probably a couple pages. I'm going to do a little Q&A, see if you guys have any questions. Then I'm going to choose 4 names from everyone that's listening today. I'm going to choose 4 names live to receive a signed copy of the book. So stay till the very end if you can, so that you can submit your name in the chat box. And we're going to choose randomly 4 names from the chat box at the end. And you'll get a free signed copy of the book. Also, before I get going and talking about the book, I am doing another sort of quote unquote kind of raffle. I don't like that name, but I don't know what else to call it. Where starting today, if you write an Amazon review, email me with a screenshot of that review. And on the 28th of this month, 28th of August, I'm going to choose 2 people to receive a free 60-minute session with me. So again, if you've purchased the book, if you're in the process of purchasing it, if you've read the book, if you're currently reading the book, go leave a review on Amazon, screenshot it, send me that email, and we will choose 2 people to receive a free 60-minute session with me, okay? And I'll make sure that my email address is in the YouTube and Facebook link, okay? All right, the divine design. Let's go. Let's dive in. And also let me know if you have a copy of the book, if you have the ebook, if you've read it, if you haven't read it, if you're starting to read it. I'd love to see that in the comments. So this book took me 4 years to write. And I'm an absolutely different person from who I was 4 years ago when this book initially dropped in. And the way that it came in, some of you have heard this story, but I was dating a guy, no longer dating him. And he said, "Hey, do you want to go to Machu Picchu?" And I said, "I have no desire to go to Machu Picchu, but I really think you're cute. I wouldn't mind hanging out with you a little bit longer. So let's go to Machu Picchu." Um, I went to Machu Picchu, and I don't know if any of you guys have traveled to Machu Picchu, but you take a bus, 30, 45-minute bus ride, swirling up this long road to get to Machu Picchu. And when we got to the top, my body was starting to vibrate really rapidly, like super high frequency. And I just heard this voice that was not my voice. It was not in my body. It was outside of me. It was somewhere else. And it was like, you are going to write the book of Earth's history. You're going to write the history of Earth. And I'm like, excuse me, what does that mean? And the guy I was dating was standing there, was sitting next to me, and he could tell that something was happening to me. And I was like, dude, I'm receiving like a massive download. And then all of a sudden, this information just started dropping in. These visions started dropping in. And they were showing me all over the world speaking about this book that I didn't even know anything about. And I didn't even know what this was, but they were showing me traveling the world on stage talking about this book. So I get off the bus and I'm vibrating super high, super ungrounded. So I tell the guy I'm dating, I was like, hey, I got to go off on my own. I don't know what's happening here, but I've got to receive this. So I start walking, and these voices are just speaking to me, and it is an absolute outside of me voice. And they're telling me where to sit in Machu Picchu. So I sit down, and this information just starts flowing about the history of our planet, how it started, what happened in the middle of it, how we fell from the fifth dimensional frequency to the third dimensional frequency, how higher dimensional consciousnesses came in to contact us, interact with us, assist in raising our vibration, how they were pulled off the planet. They were showing me so much. I was like, I couldn't grasp it. It was information I'd never heard before, and I was overwhelmed. At one point, I took out my phone and I pushed record, and I just started talking about just everything that was coming through. And I knew that in this moment, this was a book. This was apparently the book I'm here to write. And so I go home and I sit down after Machu Picchu, and within about 5 minutes, no joke, the outline of this book came through. And I want to show you what the outline was, because this book came in like a movie, like I was watching a Star Wars movie. It came in as visions. It was the only way that I was able to articulate and describe what was being shown to me. I should also preface or go back and say they were the Galactic Federation of Light, which I had never worked with. I hadn't really heard of them. And I had no idea that they were who I would be connecting with and writing this book with. So they basically being higher dimensional beings, higher dimensional consciousnesses, energies that you can't see. They're just energies to me. It's just information. It's telepathic communication. Um, this information that was delivered in this book was from them, right? And so I was basically, and I am basically just the middleman, because I forgot a lot of what's in this book. And this book is a remembrance. This book is a remembrance. It's not, I didn't pull this information from other people. I didn't go and do historical data. I didn't read other books. In fact, I was told to do nothing, not to read, not to research, not to find out if what they were telling me was true or not. Don't watch things. So for like 4 years, I didn't pick up a book. I didn't watch many people on YouTube. It was like I had to not listen to anything other than what was coming through for this book, so that I could make sure that the information that was coming through was absolutely pristine. All right. Because sometimes what happens, if you've ever received quote unquote downloads, is you'll want to verify it. So you'll go search on Google. Is this word real? Does this make sense? Is this accurate? And then all you're doing is you're either going to judge what you're receiving, or you're going to throw away what you're receiving because somebody said it differently. So I was strictly told not to do any of that. So I get this outline. Here's the outline. And I had this outline on my wall for 2 years. And it was basically how I was able to remember what the freak I was writing, because it was a story. It was like there was a way in which it was going to play out like a movie, right? I hope you guys can see this. But anyway, this is this is not a joke. This legit is my outline. Like, I didn't do chapter 1, chapter 2. No. This was it. So this is what it looks like. I'm going to try to let me move this out of the way. This is my outline. That's the outline of the book, right? So it starts right here and then it goes like this. Like that. And so that's what I used to write the book. That's what I looked at every day. It was like, wait, how is this working? So the earth enters into the 5D. See my little fish? It was like, wait, how did the fish and the trees get here? And then it was like, wait, how did light beings come in? Like, how did we enter in? And then how did she shift into the 3D? And then who came in? And wait, where did other beings come from? Where did 3D beings? So this was my outline. And I stared at it and I looked at it and I was like, this is kind of what dropped in Machu Picchu. Imagine this dropping in, right? But it was like it had like tons of information, but you didn't know what it was. So then I had to dissect. Every day I sat down in the morning, I sat at my desk and I just dissected the information. I dissected what DNA was, how the human body was designed. Like, how is this human body designed? How did it get designed? Who designed it? Why was it designed? How is it possible? Is it possible that the human body was actually designed in a fifth dimensional frequency? And if so, how is that different than the third dimensional body that we're in right now? And if that's so, how did we move back? How did we de-evolve into a third dimensional realm? And if that's so, what happened? How did Earth shift into a 3D? Right? And if and how are we shifting back into a 5D? And what happened along the way? Right? And what kind of assistance have we had? Why does the body have the subtle bodies? Why does the body have what we label chakras? Why does the body have an energetic field around it? All these very simple things that if you're in the spiritual community, you kind of know about. But this book describes the how, the design of it all. You look up at the sky, you see the stars. Where'd they come from? It wasn't a big bang. It wasn't like, oh, boom. You know, we're not expanding out with gas. Right? What's in those stars? Is that a consciousness? Why do we have the sun? Who created the sun? Is the sun a consciousness? If you're a consciousness, if Earth's a consciousness, isn't the sun a consciousness? And then if the sun's a consciousness, doesn't that mean that it has some sort of awareness of being inside the physical body of a sun? And if that's true, what about planets? And if that's true, what about the moon? And then you start getting into, what is this all held in? Are we in an experiment? Is there a 12th dimensional grid that's holding all of this? And then whose experiment is this? And did we agree to participate in this experiment? And if it's all an experiment, and you're standing on the consciousness that created this experiment, and there's all these players on the planet and off the planet participating in this experiment, then how amazing is this? How amazing are you? Right? And then you start looking into the microscopic experience of just being human and trying to survive and pay your bills and get through your day with your husband that you can't stand. And yet there's this to remember over and over and over again. This is an activation. This book tells the story of our experience here in a way that I don't believe has ever been told before. I don't read a lot of books. Thank you for reading this book, but I don't read a lot of books. I was told not to. But I think this describes things in a way that hasn't necessarily been described before. And it's broken down into very specific, fundamental concepts that anyone can pick up and understand, sort of. I did my best. I did my best to be able to describe how DNA is created. I did my best to describe how you incarnate into the human body. I did my best to try to describe how, as an energetic being in consciousness, you experience emotion and thought and trauma. It's not easy at all. But everything that's in this book is in your DNA. It's all in your DNA. So your body remembers. There's parts of you that will start to read it and you'll start crying. because there's a remembrance, and you don't know how you know any of this, but you know it. And the whole purpose of writing this book for humanity is to get humanity to start to remember the bigger picture while you simultaneously navigate the chaotic world that you're in. It takes the pressure off, right? So before I bring a couple of beautiful, amazing women on to talk about their experience, I want to quickly show you guys some of the graphs that I did. When this information came in, I had to dissect grids. I had to dissect dimensions. I had to understand how certain dimensional frequencies are able to access certain dimensional fields, and why certain higher dimensional beings can't access the earth, and what grids mean, and what DNA is, and how all of that, right? So I would spend hours and hours with this download that would drop in like a briefcase. It'd be like, here's DNA, Lorie. And it would just kind of be this big, messy, like mind screw. I'd just be like, my mind would hurt. So I would draw these little graphs like this, right? And I would just go over the graph over and over, and I would draw, and I would do this, and then I would just be circling like, wait, what? And then like, wait, okay, so a dimension, a dimension, a dimension, a dimension, the grids, and I just sat and I would stare at this, and this is how I would write a chapter. No joke. This is how I would be able to grasp the information, and I would just stare at it for hours. And then I would start to cry and be like, I'm done. I'm not doing this book. You've got to be kidding. And then I would do this. Then I would write something like this, right? And then I would just like, okay, so then I would go into this. This is my little human body. That's not a wiener or anything like that. I don't know what that is. But anyway, so then I would just do these types of things, right? And then I would do this. And this is how legit I wrote the book. This is a really cool graph too. Hold on, let me show you one more picture. Oh, so I would understand, like, I would write things like this, and then I would just draw it and stare at it and stare at it and stare at it for the information to come in. I would journal like this and just let this information, this is how it came through. It was like, okay, I'm just going to free write and then draw something random, right? And then free write and then I would put paper to pen, and everything that came through, I didn't know. I didn't know any of it. I knew none of it. So it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life. It was the most emotional thing I've ever done in my entire life. And it's one of the reasons that I incarnated on the planet at this time, is for this book. So I always knew that I didn't have a choice. I knew that. I knew I didn't have a choice. I knew I had to keep going. That's why it's here. Otherwise, I would have stopped, because I spent 2.5 years editing the book. So this book was probably 3 times the length. And then I just went back and edited it. And then I went back and edited it. And then I went back and edited it. And I traveled to all these different places to be in a somewhat peaceful place so that I could edit the book. Yeah, I want to bring up I think I'm going to bring Paula on first, but I'll just quickly go over the table of contents with you guys. This is like a serious cliff note history of Earth, like a cliff note point, like a tenth of a cliff note. So chapter 1 is the design of the 5D Earth. And really it talks about the split from source and how consciousness exists as consciousness and how consciousness creates. And if consciousness creates, then Earth must have created some sort of experiment. So how did they design the 5D Earth? And then how did they design the 12D grid and the power and importance of the 12D grid? The 5D human form, how it was designed, experiencing the 5D Earth, Earth's fall from grace, which means how did Earth and humanity move from a 5D field down to a 3D field, because it happened physically. And then the design of the 3D Earth, it had to be rebuilt, so to speak. Creating the 3D human body had to be redesigned. The beginning of the light worker. Light workers weren't here in 5D. There was no need for a light worker. So what is a light worker? Breaking all the paradigms and programming of what we've been taught, and really remembering the purpose of the light worker. The opening of the Earth's 5D grid. Why was there a 5D grid around Earth? And what the heck happened when it was opened, and why was it opened? Fourth dimensional races, the power of these races and what these races did and are still doing with humanity. The abduction, hybridization, and implants. The reptilians and the humanoids and their role in bringing humanity down into lower frequencies. What I've called the second fall from grace, which happened around 5,000 years ago. And the second call for light workers. Chapter 14 is clearing the earth. What that means, I'll let you read. Chapter 15 is the clarion call, right? The third call for light workers. Most of you came in on the clarion call. Most of you are here because of the clarion call. Chapter 16 is the harmonic convergence. Many star seeds, you call yourself a star seed, many star seeds came in around this time, the 80s. Chapter 17 is the physical evolution, talking about the physical evolution and what we're currently going through. Chapter 18 is the quantum field and really starting to understand the quantum field and the micro and the macro quantum space that we're in and how we are evolving. Chapter 19 is all about paradigms, programming, stepping out of the Akashic records, stepping out of the karmic cycles that we believe that we're in, stepping out of past life ideas, things like that. And then chapter 20 is the final statements. So that kind of sums up millions of years. Now there's so much in between that, and thank God I didn't have to write any of that. But that is sort of an outline of the history of you and the history of us and the history of this planet. It's eye-opening, it's jaw-dropping, it's a knowingness that you don't know how you know. And it's a book that you will read over and over and over again. You will pick it up and you'll go to a specific chapter and you'll just remember. Your body will remember. Your DNA will remember, you know? So there you go. There you go. I'm going to bring in Miss Paula, and she is, hey, lovely.
Hello, my friend. How are you?
Oh, first of all, thank you so much for agreeing to be on here live with us. Paula was one of the 90 people that were chosen to read the book about 2 months ago. She got the PDF version of the book and she read the book. And so I would just love for you to share your experience, about 5 minutes of just your experience with the book and what anything you want to share about it.
Happy launch day.
Happy launch day.
I'm glad that you did actually continue to write the book though, because it's given me a remembrance. And like you were just chatting about there, I think for me, it's every time you pick up the book and you read another chapter, like you read it differently to the way that you read it the first time. Because I think when we had, your book group the first time when we were reading it, it was a bit, you don't really understand sometimes all of the concepts. But now the more times that you read it, it then brings you into the remembrance and then drops you in to remind you just why you're here. But for me as well, like the part that really stood out for me was like the core consciousnesses, because I think it's always good just to remind yourself of that part of the human journey because it's so easy to get attached into your experiences. So for me, yeah, the core consciousnesses, to know that we brought them down from the Akashic records has been like a huge factor for me. And also you saying like feel everything as well, because sometimes it can be challenging to do that too.
Was there any, so the core consciousnesses, you guys, you'll read about that. It's basically like we agreed to like a handful of like very specific experiences, abandonment, unworthiness, things like that, that we agreed to as consciousness, and we pulled it in and stuck it in the Akashic record, and it sort of dictates a lot of our experiences in life and a lot of the contracts that we have from a very young age. And so it's this kind of repetitive programming that you'll see throughout your life of like abandonment, 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 right? And so when you can recognize those core consciousnesses, first of all, you take the heat off yourself. It's like, oh shit, okay, so if I chose this, then there really hasn't ever been anything wrong with me, right?
Mhm.
So it, again, it helps to alleviate all this pressure we put on ourselves. But what I'm curious about, was there anything in the book that you were like, wow, I never realized that, or I like anything that really stood out as a holy cow kind of
Eh,
moment?
yeah, for me, it was the sun, because obviously that's a big factor with me living in Scotland. And I remember asking you, do I need to move countries to allow more light into my body? So yeah, so the sun and then the moon as well, though, holding the female frequencies for me, because I didn't know that either. But also, I really like the part about the trees, because the trees actually being, like the 5D consciousness being in the tree, but then the trees are actually alive. Because I've always felt like a closeness in nature, but I didn't realize that that was why. So it was like those remembrances for me, that I really liked. Those were the parts that stood out for me the most, I would say. And then also, like, the acclimating and things like that, your body into like a higher frequency. That's helped me understand that more as well, because that was the part that I couldn't really understand, like. So that was good as well. But everything, follows on in your book, though. Like, it is it's easy to understand once you've read it a few times, and it just becomes easier because I think you have activated that remembrance inside you. So then what you're reading, like, seems like, it's basically like your tool for life. Well, for me it is. So I am so grateful that you've written it, because it's a book that you can pick up, like you say. And I don't want to say like when you're having a bad day, but when you're maybe having one of those days, just to pick up and then have that little reminder.
I love that. Yeah, it's when you guys started reading it, and then you would finish and you'd be like, I'm starting it again. I was like, oh shit. They're getting it. Because
Mhm.
that's what I was shown. I was shown that this is a book that's like, you kind of just pick it up throughout the days and you just sort of read certain parts, and it just gives you that remembrance. It gives you that activation.
Yeah.
Um,
And
yeah.
then it's made me more aware of like my patterns and my behaviors. Like, I thought that I was aware of them before, but now I've read your book, it's like, hold on, and it does allow you to stay in presence more. Like, I've noticed that as well. It has really, really helped me navigate my human journey. So I am eternally grateful for you, and I'm sure everyone else that reads this book will be the same.
Thank you so much. Thank you,
You're
thank you, thank
welcome.
you. Is there one part that just sticks out the most? One part that you're just, when you walk around, it just is constantly just sort of with you? Anything that's just like core consciousnesses, maybe?
Feel.
Feel. Yeah,
Yell. And
yeah.
it was like when you done that Instagram video as well after it, it was like, "Feel, feel, 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 feel." So that was just another reminder on top of that.
I love that you're not that, like, because there's so much like, I was afraid that for this book to come out because I don't talk about all the alien stuff, and I don't talk about the all that abduction hybridization. I don't talk about
Mhm.
that stuff. So I was really afraid that people were gonna like, come at me hard about that stuff. And it seems like it doesn't. It's sort of like it's there, but there's more focus on the
Yeah,
more important stuff to just function in life right now, right?
yeah.
Yeah,
I think for every single person, though, it'll be different, you know, depending on obviously what they're kind of resonating with. But for
yeah,
me, obviously, it was those parts like the sun, the moon, the trees, the animals, like the subtle bodies as well, and the light quotient. I don't want to go too much into that because obviously people won't understand what we're talking about. But I did obviously bring out that wee chapter about the core consciousnesses if you want me to read it, or
oh,
if you
sure. Yeah, you wanna read a quick part of the core consciousness?
yeah,
Yeah, the
so
light quotient is really powerful too when you start to understand that.
yeah, so the part about the core foundational consciousnesses, that was like 6.9. And it says once the higher dimensional consciousness has chosen the sex, location of the incarnation, and the physical attributes, it then chooses core foundational consciousnesses. These consciousnesses will dictate and create the framework for many of the experiences the human will have during their life. Almost all experiences within the human journey will stem from these core foundational consciousnesses. So, for that, I think as well, you know, because there's so many people in the world that are just like suffering from like depression and anxiety. So, to read that, you know, that they are not these things, I think will honestly help a lot of people.
Yeah,
That's my perception anyway.
yeah, I agree.
Hmm.
Well, thank you, my love. I appreciate you so
I
much.
appreciate you too. So, thank
And
you for having me
so
on.
are you in Scotland or where are you right now in the
I'm back
world?
in Scotland again, can't you tell?
Oh, yeah, it's pitch dark. Don't
It's like
worry about the sun. By the way, don't worry about the sun because the sun is always out. It's always there. It doesn't matter if the actual like visual rays are hitting you. The sun's always hitting you. The sun's always got you. Sun always has us, even at
okay.
night. So, because it's not really night, right? So you're good, girl. You're good. All right. I love you so much.
Okay,
Thank you
thank
for
you. Good luck.
sharing.
But I know
Thanks,
that you won't need
love.
it. Love you.
Love you so much. Bye.
Bye.
Back in Scotland. All right. And we have Becky. Becky Boyd. Hi, love.
Hi, Lorie.
It's so good to see your face.
It's so good to be here with you. Thank you for having me. And I have to say, just deep appreciation and gratitude for the chance to read the book early and really for your teachings. If anybody else here is part of the Lorie Ladd world, reading this book just really kind of goes together with all of your teachings. And so I really appreciate it. It's been a huge shift for me. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad that you were part of the group, the 90. So, um, how about you? What was it like? I know you had I loved all your questions throughout the divine design. You had so many questions. I loved it. What what was the biggest takeaway for you about the book? And what was the thing that sort of surprised you the most?
So my biggest takeaway was really, it's interesting because the book, for all of you who are going to be reading it, Lorie just does this amazing job of taking this intricate story and bringing it down to this just really understandable way of writing. I'm just amazed how you were able to do that. And so my experience was really, in the beginning, it felt like, wow, it's taking me a long time to kind of get through these concepts. And then after, I don't know, maybe the third or the fourth chapter, it just kind of exploded and opened up. And so my experience, it does read very much like a sci-fi novel, like you say. But then, it just leaves you with this feeling. I'll speak to my experience specifically. Um, just feeling really comforted and supported, and understanding that, much like Paula was saying, that this planet was designed in a way to support us and to support and love us. You spoke in, I think maybe it was chapter 5, about how we were created and we were created with love. And I really feel like that's an important message, especially right now. It's left me just with this real understanding of why I'm here. And that even though things are really difficult and, will likely continue to be challenging on this planet, we're here for a reason. And, and we can be comforted in that. And we can walk outside, right? Like we can go visit with the trees and the animals and know that this earth was created here for us and for our, for our love and to help us in our evolution.
Yeah. I love that because it's true. It gives you it allows you to hold a different perspective, even as you're in the midst of just trying to survive. You get to start to hold another perspective at the same time. And it really helps. It really helps. And I think that's why it doesn't matter if you understand everything in the book, right? Because it's like it's like something else is now walking with you, or you're seen, or like, oh my God, I'm being seen. There's like, I'm being appreciated. There's something that happens where there's this recognition of what you're doing. And that's, I think, also what's so powerful is like, oh wait, there's something bigger happening here. And I might not understand all the intricate details of why this and why that. But there's an internal knowingness and beingness that starts to happen with the information. Yeah. I love how you said that.
Yeah, I think that that's really true. It's almost like this, like you say a lot, stuff that's hard to articulate sometimes, but you walk out your door with a different understanding of what holds you.
Yeah.
And just with a much more solid understanding that, we can do this, that we're here to work through what's moving through us. And we're, I think one of the other things for me was just really like my job is to be with how I feel and work through my trauma and my, old beliefs and my old patterns. And that's really important for me personally, but it's also important for the planet, for, the earth is there waiting for us, right? The earth is already in a higher consciousness and waiting for us to meet her.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Is there anything in the book that was like, whoa, whoa, whoa? I think I know what you're going to say. But is there anything in there that just sort of was like, what? What did you just talk about? Or what?
Yeah. So it's definitely a book to read over and over again. But I think the darker kind of like the reptilian stuff, and I mean the alien stuff was really interesting, and it gave me a better feeling of kinship with them and love. But yeah, I think just kind of diving into the darker stuff, because I think that, traditionally in the healing community, we don't really touch on that. But what's interesting is it came in as truth. It came in as reality and what's going on. And yes, that and we have this amazing opportunity to heal and to transform.
Yeah, that's how the information came through. There wasn't a charge to it.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a charge to it, right? It's just sort of like, oh, and then this happens, and then this happens. And so you're just sort of like, oh, that's interesting, and oh, that's interesting. Oh, wow. And it was designed, I think, to come in that way so that we didn't have a specific charge around any of it. So um, we could experience it just literally like like a movie that we were watching. Um, yeah, that's how it felt when it came through when I was writing it.
Yeah, and I think that's just so helpful, for things that are happening in our world, to be able to bring that perspective to what's happening, whatever it is that we see come across a screen, or we hear, or we read that feels maybe scary. We can take that lens and kind of come out from it and see that it doesn't have to be. We don't have to take the bait and take
Yeah,
on the charge.
exactly. There's always a bigger design with all of it, you know?
Yeah.
Well, love, thank you so much for just agreeing to show up today live. Also, just all your support, all your love, for reading the book over and over again, for showing up, for being on the planet, for all of it. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Lorie. I truly appreciate the chance to be here with you and to support this book, and just love you, and so happy to be in to have these teachings, and to really it's really changed my life. So I just want to say that.
Oh, thank
Thank
you
you.
so much. I appreciate you.
Yeah.
Appreciate you. Thanks, Becky.
Thank
All right. I could just listen to I love listening to how people have experienced the book. It's definitely a surreal experience. Um so let me look at time. Okay. I think what I'll do is let me do a quick little read. I'll read like a chapter, or not a chapter, that would be ridiculous. Let me just read the introduction, a little bit of the introduction for you. The audiobook is going to be out. We're doing the audiobook in Sedona. So it'll be out probably the end of October, beginning of November. Yeah. And if you guys are having issues, if you order the hard copy book, and it's going to take a while to come through, like a couple weeks, or you can always order the soft copy of the paperback. The paperback comes, from what I've heard, the paperback will be is available right away. So if you're having issues ordering if you ordered the hard copy, or the hard cover, whatever it's called, go and order the paperback instead, or the ebook. Okay, so let me just read a quick paragraph or two from the introduction. So this is the introduction, very first page. All right, this is how it came through. I was on a bus, slowly winding its way up to the powerful sight of Machu Picchu, when the divine design entered my reality. As the bus was approaching the site, my body began to increase in vibration. All the noise on the bus quieted, and I started to shift into an altered state. I heard a soft and gentle voice say, "This is your book, and you are writing Earth's history, Earth's story." I was confused, as I had no idea I would be writing a book, nor did I think it would begin on a bus. I asked the voice, "What is my book?" The voice responded, "You are writing the historical account of Earth's and humanity's evolution." As the bus stopped at the entrance to Machu Picchu, before I could even exit the bus, I received the download for the entire book. It was one of the most intense and magical moments of my life. I gathered my backpack and began to walk off the bus slowly. I could feel my body vibrating at a frequency much higher than it typically holds. I received downloads all the time from my guides. I had never received a download as large and as quick as I did at that moment. It was as if my guides wanted to make sure that I heard them, but also understood the magnitude of the information delivered to me. As I slowly walked the ancient land of Machu Picchu, I knew I was not alone. I could feel potent, higher dimensional beings around me and guiding me through the land. These beings were the one that spoke to me on the bus and provided the downloads that would later become the divine design. When I asked who they were, they responded, We're the Galactic Federation of Light, and we are here to assist you in writing your first book. There was a familiarity to these beings. I felt at home in their energy. I knew I had been waiting my entire life to reconnect with them and fulfill the contract of writing this book. So that's just a couple paragraphs of the introduction. But that's how it started. That is how it started. And my prayer is that everyone that is called to read this book moves into a remembrance of why they're here, a remembrance of everything they've gone through in all lifetimes, and especially in this lifetime. That you remember how courageous you are, how miraculous this experience is, how miraculous this human journey is. That you remember that nothing is a mistake, nothing is an accident, nothing is by chance. That every single thing we have ever experienced in every single lifetime, everything we look up at in the sky, everything we look at around us is a divine design. And although you may have cognitive dissonance with certain things, you may want to maybe be unable to hold certain concepts in this book. It's not designed to be a debate or an absolute. It's designed to just simply be an energetic remembrance. That's it. So I have about 15 minutes left. I want to do a couple things. I'll answer a few questions. Hi, Lois. It's good to see you. If you haven't, your name will be in. If you haven't gotten the hard copy, you can always cancel your order and get the paperback. Yeah. So does anybody have any quick questions? I want to make sure that we pick 4 names as well. So I want to make sure that we do that. But does anybody have any questions? You can get the book right now, paperback, hard copy, and ebook, all over the world on all Amazon sites. You can get it on the Barnes & Noble site. You can get it on the Walgreens site. You can get it on, there's different sites in different countries. If you go to my website, you can find all the different websites to purchase the paperback from as well. If you have issues with Amazon or you don't want to support Amazon or whatever it is, it's everywhere. Okay. The light quotient. Yeah. So the light quotient, the earth as a consciousness has a light quotient. We have a light quotient. It's very different though between what the earth is holding and what we are holding. A light quotient or quotient is the amount of light that you as a consciousness brought in to the physical body. And the more light that you brought in, the more perhaps difficult it is to be in the human body. And so typically the human body is capable of holding around 6 to 16% of its light. So if you imagine that you're this really high frequency light, okay, before you enter into the body as a third dimensional physicality cannot hold all that light. It would explode, it would burn, the organs wouldn't survive. It's too much light. It would combust. So when the human was being designed, and when the human was being designed in a third dimensional reality, they had to practice, they had to do sort of quote unquote test runs to see how much light a consciousness could bring in. That's how specific and detailed this human experience is. It's not just like I'm going to incarnate into the human body. Do you understand that you're an energy, that you can't just bring in full force 100% of your energy? It would burn the organs. It would burn the heart. It would burn your lungs. It would burn. That's how high frequency you are. People don't think about that in terms of physics. We're just like, oh yeah, we incarnated into this body. No, a quotient, a percentage of your light did, because Physics-wise, your body couldn't hold that much light. That is absolute physics. The higher in frequency you are and the more light that is held in that high frequency, the faster it's going to spin, right? I mean, you've had moments where you've been in such a high vibrational frequency, or you've been in this altered state that you're literally going wonka. You're going wonky. You have headaches. You're dizzy. You can't see straight. Like all these things happen. Imagine a huge amount of light popping in and trying to be held in that body. Short circuits. So when the earth is in a lower vibration, a very third dimensional realm, and like it was about 15,000 years ago, the body could only hold about 6% of your light. Now the earth is at a much higher frequency, and the human body has been evolving over time. It's capable of holding more light. So now there are consciousnesses incarnating that are holding up to 16% of their light quotient, somewhere around there. And if you notice the children that are being born now, a lot of them, they're being diagnosed with these disorders. They can't focus, they can't concentrate, they can't sit still. Nothing makes sense to them. They understand so many things. They're telepathic. They can see energies because they're holding more of their consciousness. So they're much more connected. And it's even more uncomfortable to be in the body. The more light quotient that you're holding in the physical body, the more uncomfortable the physical body is going to be, right? It's going to be much more uncomfortable. And then the earth herself she is raising her light quotient. So she is constantly bringing in more and more of her light quotient. So it's a little bit different than what we're doing. You know, our light quotient doesn't increase. It is what it is. You dropped in with 10%, that's what you die with. But your physical body is constantly increasing in vibration. It's the physical body that is increasing, right? So pay attention to all of the young ones that are incarnating right now. They're incarnating with much more light than you are holding. Now, your body may be holding more light physically, right? But their consciousness, there's much more of their consciousness, you know? Yeah, the indigo children, the rainbow children, the star seeds, there's all these names for them. But the reason they have names is because they're holding more consciousness, light quotient. And the reason they're able to is because the physical body has been able to evolve into higher states. So it can actually hold the light. Bada bing, bada bang. Are the downloads you got similar to those Dolores Cannon got about the creation of Earth and humans? I don't know what downloads she got about Earth and the humans. I think some stuff is similar, some stuff is different. Yeah. You know. So because of the light, we need to be more than one aspect of us. I don't understand that question. Can I make an Instagram post showing your graphs? Yeah, I'll be doing that. Definitely. What surprised you the most during this process? What surprised me the most is the way in which I had to dissect the information. That's what surprised me the most. I'm glad that I didn't know how this was going to unfold, because I don't think I could have done it. So I knew nothing. I was blind to all of this. I didn't know what was going to come through. I didn't know what the book was going to be about. I didn't know how difficult the information would be. I didn't know that I was going to be sitting for weeks at a time just trying to understand one chapter, the DNA. Like, I didn't understand. I didn't know that. And there's a reason. That's why being present is so important, because the more present you are, the less suffering you will be in. So I think the thing that surprised me the most was just how intense the information was and how I had to dissect it, and the way in which I dissected it. Like that I needed the graphs. And also what surprised me the most was how it came through as a movie scene. Like they would show me, I would sit and kind of close my eyes and get ready for the next chapter. And then as I would write, they would just be showing me these movie scenes right? So imagine your eyes are open and you're writing, and then there'd be these scenes that you're watching at the same time. And so you'd have to write down what you're seeing, right? So I'm writing, I'm typing what I'm visually seeing in order to kind of get it out. That's how it came through. That's how it came through. And it changed me in many ways. It changed it. I think that's why I'm able to accept what's happening on the planet much easier, because I have that bigger perspective of what this is all about, which is why it's so important to get this book out so that you guys can remember what this is all about, and you won't get so caught up in the bullshit of it all. You know, I have a ever since I wrote this book, I'm able to just navigate life so much easier. I don't get caught up in everything because I have the bigger perspective. I know what we've gone through. I know what we went through millions of years ago. And you do too. It's just that you don't remember. So the biggest gift that this book gave me was the ability to remember so much and to have ease when I go through life. And also to show myself a lot more compassion, a hell of a lot more compassion. I beat myself up. I beat myself up this morning. I beat myself up last night. I literally beat myself up the entire time I was writing this book, meaning I didn't believe in myself. I thought this book was horrible and nobody was going to read it, and it read like a kindergartner. You know, it was really intense. A lot of rebirthing happened, you know. No, it's not about the universe being a school, because that's not what's in this book. The universe isn't a school. This actually isn't a school based on what came through from the divine design. This is actually an experiment. And so you didn't come here to learn. You came here to remember what you're doing here. That's how the book came through for me. So we have 4 minutes left. And what I want to do is I want to give away 4 copies of this book, signed copies, to 4 of you guys. And so what I'd like to do is, if you want a copy, just in the chat box right now, just say yes, or pick me, or something. And I'm just going to randomly choose 4 people. Okay. That's just how I'm going to freaking do it. So just say me, pick me, pick me, pick me. And I'm just going to let the universe throw me the names. Hopefully you guys on Facebook are able to do it. Also, if you are in my Patreon, we're doing another one of these on Friday. So if you're not in my Patreon, join my Patreon. We're going to do another giveaway of 4 books. Hey, what's up? We're just picking. I got 2 more. 1 more. And I'll leave the link to my Patreon down below. We're doing another event Friday. Friday at 2 p.m. or 1 p.m. I can't remember. Giving away 4 more books. Okay. Got them. All right. So I'm going to name the 4 names. If it's you, you're going to need to email us. Okay. So let me write my email address down, write it down, and email us. And we'll give you all the information. contact@lorieladd.com. Okay, so the first one is Rianne. Rianne. I can't remember your last name, Rianne. Can you confirm that you are here? Second one is Kiki. Kiki. Rianne, Kiki, confirm that you got this, please. Yeah, Rianne. Yeah, Lake Healy. Rianne Lake Healy. Kiki, you are second. Confirm. Kiki Y. Kiki WAI. KIKKIWAI. Okay. Dave Mosher, Dave. You're number 3, my friend. Email us, Dave. And the fourth is Kendra. Kendra. Kendra, confirm. And then Dave, confirm. Make sure Kiki confirmed. Rianne confirmed. Dave confirm. And then Kendra confirm. And just email us. So join us on Patreon, you guys. Friday, I'm giving away 4 more books. Dave. Okay, thanks, Dave. You got it. Dave did it. And then I'm just waiting for Kendra. There you are. Perfect. Yay! Oh my God, I did it in 1 hour. I am so good. So proud of myself. Before I go, you guys, a couple things. Don't forget, you can get the paperback, the hard copy, the ebook all over the place. Amazon, Barnes and Nobles. Go to my website. There's all kinds of sites on my site. If you live in other countries, there's an ebook link on my website where you can get the ebook all over the place. Can't buy it yet in actual physical stores, but just call Barnes and Nobles and tell them you want the damn book in the store. And the more calls that they get, they'll put the book in the store. Yeah, I'm determined to get this on like the New York Times bestseller list, like break all paradigms and programs. Again, also, if you want to get a chance to get a free 60-minute session with me, write an Amazon review. Email me, contact@lorieladd.com with a screenshot of the Amazon review. And on August 28th, we're going to be picking 2 people to receive a free 60-minute session with me. So if you've already written your review, just email me with a screenshot. And if you haven't written a review, go write a review. It helps me. It helps the book. It helps humanity. It helps the world. I love you guys so much. Thank you for being here. I'll probably jump on an Instagram Live later this evening to talk even more about the book, and just stay tuned for more stuff, more information. Oh, one last thing. I'm going to be in person signing books in Santa Monica, California. I'll leave that information down below. I'll be signing books in person in Santa Monica at the Mystic Journey Bookstore on Saturday, September 17th. From 5 to 7 p.m. So the event is free. Come, you can bring your book. I'll sign it. You can buy a book there. I'll only have a limited amount, so it's better to bring your book. But come meet me in person, Santa Monica, September 17th, 5 to 7. Okay, you guys, I love you so much. Thanks for being here. I'll see you soon.